Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today is the 20th edition of the Homes and Money Realtor Mastermind. I have a friend of mine with me today, Dustin Walters, and I remember Dustin at a I guess an event in November at a Real Producers event. I met you for the first time. Patrick Braddock said, that you were kind of an up and comer. I think you even had a special in the magazine done about you, and so I'm excited to have you today. We started this dialogue several months ago, and then you've attended a bunch of these, and so I'm really excited to have you. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So Dustin, just quick, and we go through this each time, but have you grown up in Cincinnati your whole life?
So actually, I grew up in Mainville. So I was born in Corbin, and then my parents moved here when I was about 5 or 6 years old for work. So my dad works at Ford, and he got transferred here. So since I was 5, 6 years old, so I think we moved here in 2000.
Okay. And when did you get into real estate?
I was 19 years old. So yeah,
What happened? How did that come about?
So I don't have any family members or anybody in real estate. So I was working at Meyer at the time, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was thinking college. I had no idea. And this gentleman came through my line. I was a cashier, and he was dressed really well. So I just asked him what he did for work, and he said that he was a realtor. And I said, oh, that's kind of cool. I've always wanted to do something in real estate. Like I was thinking more like investing down the road, 10 years down the road. And he was like, well, I'm actually looking for my first assistant. So he gave me a card. And just to get out of Meyer, I was like, okay, I'm going to give this guy a call, start out as his assistant just to get away from Meyer. And I called him a week later. I started with him. I saw his paychecks, and I was like, well, I don't need to go to college. I can do this myself. And I actually grew his business a lot just in that 6-7 months that I was with him. So I was like, I can do this on my own. So I got my license 7 months later, and that was it.
And so have you been with Coldwell Banker the whole time?
No, I started out at Sipsey Klein. I was with them for 9 months. And I hated it. And I left, and I went to Coldwell Banker. I was with them for 6 months. And at the time, I did not like it. It was so different in 2015, 16. So I didn't like it. And I ended up going to Ownerlands, and I was there for a long time. And then I ended up circling back to Coldwell Banker in 2021.
Okay. And you're, for the most part, by yourself, right? You don't have a team that helps you?
No, just solo.
And we've talked about this a little bit before. Most of your business is referral based, correct?
All of it, yeah, right now.
All of it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I guess one question, I'm going to kind of go off script for a minute. Do you feel like the Mainville market, and I know that we talked about where you kind of work and operate, but do you feel like the Mainville market is closer to the Cincinnati market, or is it closer to kind of like the Dayton market?
I'd say the Cincinnati market for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so still a seller's
it's
market.
definitely a seller's market out here. So,
Okay.
I mean, like nothing is available in Little Miami School District. I mean, every time something hits the market, it sells right away.
Now, do you feel like in that we've gone through some period shifts within specifically that market, because for the longest time they couldn't pass a tax levy. I know that was an issue for them. Do you think that's helped seeing a flip in the real estate, or was that a direct correlation to the real estate side?
Yeah, I do. So, and now Mainville's grown so much. They've had a lot of new construction too, like in Morrow, which is also Little Miami Schools. And I think with all the new construction and people moving into the area, it's now an area where everything sells pretty much in the first day.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you told me before people started jumping on was that you do a lot of business in what we would consider maybe some more urban markets than even Mainville. Is that hard to kind of balance the back and forth with those different types of clientele? You know, the person that wants to buy in Mainville versus the person that wants to buy in North Avondale.
Not really. I mean, actually, I think the majority of my clients are older. So most of my clients are in their 60s and 70s.
Interesting. And how did that start? Especially if you're referral based, how did you have such a
I really don't know. I
Yeah.
really don't know. I used to do a lot of open houses, and I was focusing a lot on like nicer condominiums and condos, like in the Landon Mainville area. So, I think that's probably how it got started, because the people buying those were looking, for something with one level. And I think naturally I ended up, and then I got referrals from like their friends. And so most of my clients are in their 60s and 70s.
Okay. And so are they the types of clients that are wanting to move more into the urban markets?
Yeah, actually they are. They're like retiring, and they want and there's a lot of condos in the urban areas too. So they're kind of moving toward that way.
Okay. So really good segue into that. And if anybody wants to kind of unmute to kind of talk through this a little bit. I live in Westchester, and if you've been through Westchester lately, you know that there's two really major condo developments going up in the Westchester Liberty Township area. There are, I think they're calling them the flats at Liberty Center, which is just an enormous like condo. I assume they're more condo than apartments. And then they've finally started construction at Union Center on all of those, and they're like 4 or 5 stories. There's a huge development going on there. Do you feel like because there's so much kind of like landlocked and there's a need for more new construction, do you think that we're seeing more of that condo living kind of lifestyle?
No, I'd say I don't think there's any more like empty nesters or like retirees than before. I think that's, more single family homes are being built for growing families right now than anything. So as far as like new construction condos, I'm not seeing much of it. I don't think anybody's really seeing a lot of new construction condos. We really need more single family homes for families.
Well, and I wonder if the like again, especially in where I'm at, and I think I heard that, you know, in Springdale, Tri-County area, they're changing where the mall was and building a bunch of condos there. I would assume we're going to see that to most of the shopping mall areas as well. Hopefully, and you guys know this a lot more than I do, but hopefully, you know, the new hip trendy condos will create people that need to sell their single family home, which will kind of help create some inventory on that front as well.
Yeah.
You think that'll potentially be the case?
Yeah, as long as they build them. So
Yeah.
it seems like developers are working really slow right now. So it seems like it takes forever for a project to actually even get started.
Okay.
So but as long as these developers get it done, then yes.
Okay.
I was going to say that I think that you're seeing things like the condos and what have you because of, like you said, the land situation. There's only so much of it and it's getting eaten up. So it's easier for them to build up than out because of the land and how expensive it is.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think there's this trend now. I mean, Nikki just jumped on and I know she works a lot downtown and you know, in some of the OTR and even I think we're going to see some more condo developments go up across the river because of potential tax ramifications with income tax. And so, Miranda, you're exactly right. I think people move up, but there's this new thing of kind of making it hip and trendy to live in that urban kind of style living, but yet in a suburban area, right? So hopefully that does help with some of our single family inventory.
Yep. Yep.
Dustin, when you work with the 60 plus community, is that a lot different buyer than most people? I mean, because they're more established, they have different financing, if they need it at all, they have different expectations. Is that kind of difficult to balance, especially for a father of a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old?
Actually, no. So the older people that are usually they can pay cash. So even if they do decide to finance, they're able to put down 30, 40, 50% at least. So it always makes for an easier transaction. So and I didn't even like target older people. I don't know how it really started, but I think my first client ever was 61. But I think they're just easier buyers. Usually their credit's in much better shape. They have assets. If they needed to, they could pull from one of their investment accounts. So usually it's an easier deal.
Nice. And like you said, if the first client is 61 and then they start referring their friends, it's something that you embrace, and obviously that you become good at that demographic of people.
Mhm.
So,
yeah.
So the fact that you have a lot of cash buyers and or people that can put up significant amounts of cash, do you have trouble, and Miranda and Tim maybe jump in on this too, do you guys have trouble kind of managing expectations versus pre-approval amounts? Do you find yourself going back to those clients to say, hey, we probably need to put more cash down to get this transaction to go through or to win the bid on this? How are you strengthening those offers, but then also kind of managing the expectations versus what buyers can afford?
I don't think people started getting upset about what they got pre-approved for until after the rates went up.
Mm-hmm.
So they were very happy with the house that they could have gotten, and now they're not. Their purchasing power is just diminished.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that now, I mean, if they're not, a lot of my buyers aren't able to find exactly what they want. If they're not able to afford 350 now because of the market, and now they can go up to like 225 or 250 because of the interest rates, then they just end up kind of sitting still. So
yeah, and then obviously people initially go to that knee-jerk reaction of, I'm just going to wait. But we've had so much volatility in even our interest rate market. How are you as an agent kind of managing those expectations with the buyer, so that they don't stick their flag in the sand and say, I'm not moving, I'm staying put, but yet we might see a 0.5% drop in interest rates the next week.
So I try to be upfront and honest with them. Like, I don't think anybody really knows what the interest rates are going to do. I don't think they're going to, like, even if they do go down, it's always fluctuating. So it's probably just going to go back up a couple weeks later. So I think for at least a while, the rates are at least going to be in the 6s. And by a while, I mean like at least 9 to 12 months. So, and I think a lot of buyers have realized that too. They waited and they held out, and they're realizing that the rates really are not changing, and they're not going down to the 4s or the 3s like they wanted. So I think a lot of buyers have kind of accepted that, and they're either just going to accept that and take on the bigger payment, or they're just going to sit still until they find exactly what they want, and it's going to have to be perfect. A lot of my clients have been really, really picky because of the rates.
Yeah.
And they're just so hesitant to write an offer because they want it to be the perfect place. If they're going to spend an extra $400 a month on the same place that they could have bought last year, they want it to be perfect.
Sure. Yeah. And I guess I don't mean when I say the rates fluctuating that they're going to go down. I just think there's been such a knee-jerk reaction within the bond market, et cetera, that you might see 6.25% one day and 6% the next. And so, for me, I kind of hesitate wanting my clients to just say, nope, I'm not going to do this. It's too much. Because when you see those little pockets, we want to inform those buyers, and then maybe they haven't given up and they find the right house. Because especially when you talk about affordability, 0.25% can make a significant difference in somebody's payment. So
yeah, and there's all kinds of like ARMs are becoming more common now too. So and ARMs are great, and you can always refinance, an ARM before 5 years. So there's products out there to still get into the fives. So to where it's still affordable and you can still refinance, in 3-4 years.
Sure.
But it's at least going to save you a couple $100 a month, at least for now, or maybe 150. So.
Okay. In the markets and the niches that you work in, obviously you mentioned to me before the call that you've got a listing in New Richmond, all over the map. Have you found that it's more difficult as a solo agent to kind of figure out how to market in those areas? So like, I remember when I had Scott and Jill Ferguson on, we talked a lot about geo farming. Are you doing marketing strategies like that, even though you're kind of spread so far around the city?
No. So the only marketing that I've been doing for probably the last 9 months is just to my past clients. So
and what does that look like for you? What type of past client marketing are you doing?
So it's like handwritten letters, small gifts, pop buys, things like that, inviting them out to get a drink, things like that.
Okay.
So.
And is there a frequency that you have been using for that? Is it once a month? Are you?
Yeah, I try to stay in touch with everybody at least once a month. And those are, when I say past clients, I mean like somebody I've actually closed a deal with.
Okay.
So.
All right. What about in terms of the change that you've had recently where, things have really started to take off for you? What would you attribute that success to? What have you changed within yourself versus 2014, 2015, and when you first started out to where you are now? What's really changed?
So in 2018, I started to I was tired of struggling. I struggled in real estate for 2 years. It was like 2.5 years. I was tired of it. So it sucks being broke and you're like doing your best and you're just struggling. So I think I was just tired of struggling for 2 years to like get my feet off the ground. I started to do better end of 2017, beginning of 2018. My first really great year was 2018. So I think that's when it took off. And I think I was just tired of being broke. I was tired of struggling, just not being able to even, pay bills on time. I was tired of it. So.
And what changed? Was it a determination in you, or did you work with a mentor and change your schedule? What was the biggest change that you made?
I just invested more time into my business. My follow-up got better as well. I started doing, I was doing 6 open houses a week. So I was doing 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. So, and I was doing open houses for other people's listings. I just was being more intentional and working a lot more. Also at the time, Op City was pretty great. I think in 2018, I closed 16 deals that were Op City. And then I started to do some online marketing, like with Realtor.com, and that was good as well. So I think I was just being more intentional, and I was just tired, and I was just telling myself, never again. I'm not going to put myself in this situation. I'm tired of not even being able to get to my appointments because I'm worried about gas money or whatever. I was tired of it. So because it was 2.5 years before I started doing okay.
Hmm.
So
That's good. I mean, obviously the determination has paid off and the decision that you made. And I think a lot of people go through that. I really do. I think they, especially when you've started something new, because of the guy that you met in Meyer that dressed really nice, and then you saw his paychecks, and then you thought you could do this, and then you kind of went through a little lull, but then you kind of just decided this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to make sure I'm good at it. So
yeah, and another factor I think too was I was working other jobs when I was a new agent. So I was working 2 jobs plus doing real estate at a time. And that was probably for a year. So I was working over 100 hours a week. I remember I had to be at my job at 2 p.m. I would work till 1 a.m. and then I had to be at my other job at 2 a.m., not get done until 6:30. I'd be home by 7 a.m. I would sleep for 3 hours, and then I would work for 2 or 3 hours on real estate before I had to go back to work. And when you're doing that for a year, you're exhausted. I was taking naps in my car during lunch because I was just too exhausted. So, and it affected my real estate too. I can't take calls when I'm at work, and I was tired of it. So,
and then you probably had to make the decision that one of those other jobs had to stop in order for you to excel and succeed in the real estate side, correct?
Correct. Yeah. I ended up quitting my job that was in the middle of the night just so I could get some sleep so that I could work on my real estate in the mornings.
Good.
So
good. Okay, who's got a question for Dustin? Quiet bunch today.
Dustin, it's Robert Smith. How are you, sir?
Hey, buddy. Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for the information. I just want to poke fun and see where we're going to dinner. That's all.
Dude, when do you want to do dinner? You said you were going to talk to your wife. I'm waiting to hear back from you.
Well, you owe me 3 of them.
3 of them? I thought it was 2.
You don't want to tell people why you owe me.
So Robert here, I made a bet with him that I could beat him 1 month, actually 2 months, and I didn't beat him, so I owe him dinner at Jeff Ruby's or wherever he wants to eat.
So that's really so again, just a side comment. I think that's a motivating factor of what has helped you as well. And I know Nikki's on here. She works with a dynamic team. Tim, you've got people that surround you that you kind of push yourself to keep up with and be. Miranda, used to work with her dad and was kind of following in his footsteps, but then also she runs a big team up, in her market. And then Lindsay, I mean, I've known Lindsay for a long time, and Lindsay constantly pushes herself to be number 1 in the office. And so I think that's big. And you know what? If you beat Robert, you'd be ecstatic. But if you barely lost to Robert and you have to pay him, a dinner to keep up, then I think that's good because you've pushed yourself, and motivated yourself based on those around you. So that's huge.
Yeah. And I know that he's the best at our office, so I'm gonna shoot for the best. I'm gonna do my best and aim my sights high.
Yeah.
So because Robert, almost every month, he's number 1 in the office, and it's because of his hard work.
Yeah.
So,
Miranda,
I think you had a question there for a second.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, how many deals are you doing now? And are you thinking you're to the point of wanting to start a team?
So actually, I have slowed down a lot. So, I have a 7-month-old. So, before she was even here, I decided I wanted to take some time off working. So I wanted to spend some time with the kids and Megan. So I cut off all of my marketing, like my Zillow marketing and all my other marketing 2 or 3 months before the baby was here. And I purposely slowed down so I could spend more time with family. I'm maybe working 20 hours a week right now. So I'm gonna have to ramp it back up. I don't think I'm ready for a team or anything. I was, but I think at the moment I'm not, because I'm not doing any type of marketing, extra marketing. I'm not putting enough hours in. So, but yeah, I slowed down intentionally so I could spend time with family.
Sometimes that's needed, and I think you see the effects of the lag in the ramp up of a pipeline, and then once you get back in, it's got to build back up. But definitely, worth it to spend that time with your newborn.
Yeah. So, and this will probably be our last kid. So I really wanted to spend time with her. So, I know that I'm going to ramp it back up and start marketing again. But I really just wanted to take a break for a while. I was tired of grinding and not having any help. And I would get burnt out, I'd say once every 6 to 7 months. And I would take, maybe a month off. I'd go on vacation or go do something. But I would burn myself out of work every 6 months, because when I worked at 100 miles an hour, and then I just didn't do anything. So, and it's been really nice. It's been really nice being able to spend time with, kids and Megan. And I know that I'm going to start ramping it back up, but it's been really nice. So it really has.
I was gonna just add to that. I mean, part of why I started a team is because of that. I burn my candle. I mean, I still do, because I don't think I know anything less than 100 miles an hour. But having a team does allow you to leverage other people and allow you to say, me in my instance, I don't really take buyer appointments necessarily anymore. So it lets me stay home with my family, and also lets me capture, those clients through my team. So food for thought.
Yes. Yeah. I definitely have thought about it. So, eventually I'm sure I'll do something with a team. I don't know when I would be ready for it. I don't know. I know that 55 years solo. So I don't know if that's the point where I should at least get an assistance, or when I should start building a team. I think that I have missed out on a lot of opportunities not having a team, or at least people to help me. Because I know that when I was doing 55 deals a year, most of those leads that were coming in, they weren't really getting the attention that they should have gotten from me, because I was so busy all the time. So I wasn't following up with them. I just didn't have the time, or I wasn't taking any extra leads because I was in a showing when I received a new lead. And I think it's rude to answer the phone when you're with a client. So I turned down a lot of leads. So I know that there's opportunities I have missed just from being busy and not having help. So, which is frustrating.
Dustin, it's Nikki Hayden. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, good. I was dealing with drama with title closing on the other end, but I was listening. I jumped on. Congrats to all your success. I can relate a lot to what you're talking about. That's why I personally, people ask me all the time, why aren't you doing your own thing? Why aren't you running your own team? But I personally, for my mental health and balance in life, I'm a single mom. I have 2 kids. So I applaud that you're taking time off right now and being some focused, or, slowing down. I'm not able to do that because I'm a single provider, but that's why I choose to be on a team, because I just need to be able to sell and just keep, having everybody help me. So it's, you got to give up some things, but I applaud that you're doing that. And I have a lot of respect for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. So I think that family's number one. Why even work if you can't provide something to other people? So that's how I see it. I used to buy sports cars and clothes And anything I wanted, when I was single and I was, just starting to do really well with real estate. And now those things are not important to me. Now I'm looking at like the best daycares to send like the kids to, and things like that are important to me. So I definitely need to find a way to get some help and still have time with family, And I'm not a good teacher, by the way. So I've had 2 assistants in the past, very temporary. One of them I had for maybe a couple months. The other one I had for 4 or 5 months. And I didn't know what tasks to give them. And I knew that I could do it quicker myself than if I were to teach them how to do it. So I pretty much, I was a horrible teacher. And when I want to work at home, I work at home. I don't always want to go into an office. You can't force somebody to stay accountable. So I struggled with having an assistant. So I did.
Lindsay, I think you had a question.
Yeah. So, first of all, I do, agree with a lot of things that you're saying. A lot of it, I think a lot of agents, especially when they're top producers and things like that, I feel like probably in most cases, there's a time where you kind of lose sight of like life for a little bit. I struggled with that, especially when I started getting my team. I still really wanted to control everything and still wanted to be in the middle of absolutely everything until I learned like, okay, these are people I trust, they can handle it. But just have a little question. I know at one point you mentioned Zillow and like turning off leads and different things like that. So me personally, I have never actually committed to buying leads or anything like that. A lot of my business is personal referrals. Did you see a big difference in, paying for leads like that through Zillow or something else? Like, did it provide a lot to you, or was it more so, hit and miss and every once in a while you got a good lead, or how did that work?
Yeah, so I did really, really well with Zillow. So I think Zillow leads are probably the best online leads. And the information is almost always accurate. So it's usually always a working email. It's at least a working phone number. The nurture leads are called nurture leads. They kind of stink, but the connections, when they actually connect you to a buyer or seller, those are fantastic. So, and I would usually, for years, I would 3 to 4x my return with Zillow. So, for a long time, I was spending a lot of money, close to 10 grand a month. And I didn't have anybody helping me, like lenders or anybody covering any other costs, but I would 3x my money. So, I mean, if I had more time, I would spend 20. I mean, that makes sense. But it was really, really great until the market started to kind of shift. When rates started to go up, I started noticing that my ROI, instead of 3x, it was now like 2.25, and then it was 2x, and then it was like 1.7x. And then when I finally ended up canceling, I was only at 1.3x. So it no longer made sense for me to do Zillow. So I don't know if I'll go back to it, but I know that the rates, that's when I kind of noticed the leads starting to get a little worse, because they're mostly buyer leads. So, and buyers they can be hesitant right now, especially online leads. So I was just driving around a lot and spending a lot of time with buyers. And even if they got pre-approved, they wanted to see 20 homes, 30 homes. And they weren't necessarily going to buy anything a lot of times. So I was just kind of spinning my wheels and just kind of breaking even. So they used to be great for me. And I know, I think Robert's done a lot too with online, like Zillow leads. And I'm not sure how his leads are doing, but I know that mine were not doing great when I canceled them in July.
For those of you that do online leads, do you feel like the client is treating the process more like a transaction and less like a relationship? Because obviously you know, they went online and put their information so that people could call them and, you know, try to sell them versus coming to you and wanting to have a relationship where you would be their realtor for 1, 2, maybe 3 houses down the road. Do you think it's more difficult because you have to really focus on the value that you provide in the transaction and kind of sell that buyer on why to use you?
I think this is Nikki. I'll just speak for that. I think it's always transactional. At first, they're cold. I've had people flat out say, "Look, I don't want to be stuck working with you." Yeah, and I'm like, that's fine. You don't need to work with me. I'm just, but I will say 99%, I convert all of them to be relationships. So I think it's just kind of part of sales and kind of what you got to deal with. You got to kind of get abused a little bit at the beginning until they meet you and get to know you.
Sure.
Yeah. And Zillow leads are great too with connections. It's very easy to, they've already inquired about a specific house that they have questions about or would like to schedule showing to see. So it's really easy with Zillow to schedule that showing with somebody you've never met that Zillow's already talked to. And they may or may not be able to buy a house, but at least you're able to meet them, get in front of them, even if they buy something in a year. I have Zillow clients from 2 or 3 years ago that are coming back to me and they're like, okay, I'm ready now. So I just had a closing in Sims Township with somebody I never met.
Yeah.
So,
And like Nikki said, you can convert them to where they're no longer a Zillow lead. They're now a past client and they don't even think about going to Zillow in the future because you've built the relationship.
yeah, and I don't plan on going back. I think that once you like have, a decent amount of closings, like at least a couple hundred, then you can kind of cut back on some of your marketing. You don't cut it back completely, do something, even if you reduce your Zillow costs or Realtor.com or any other marketing platform you do, even if you're spending $3,000, maybe cut it down to 1,000. Once you get busy and you have those past clients to stay in touch with and get referrals from. So I think Zillow leads, they used to be great. I'm not sure how they're doing now. I haven't done it since July. So I know that I'm still closing some Zillow clients.
I think that you would, with those type of leads, you should never bank on it with your business. Like you said, it's just a little gravy. It's something on the side. You need to find a niche on where it's at. And then, own that zip code if you did those type of leads,
Yeah. And Zillow is very expensive too. So the leads are not cheap. So, most of my zip codes, I was paying $250, $300 a lead. So, and with no guarantee that you're going to close anything,
Yep.
So,
any other questions for Dustin? I think this has been good. We've kind of gone off script as per the usual stuff. Yeah, Tim.
Hey, thanks, man. Hey, Dustin, I know we haven't met yet. I'm a little newer to these calls and only been in real estate for a couple of years, but I was just curious when you were talking about ramping back up. What does that look like for you? Like maybe throw me a bone here, give me some specifics on, what your actionables may look like on a day-to-day and how you plan to really get that pipeline, not motivation, but momentum back.
So I make more money when I go into the office. So I'm like hardly ever in the office anymore. So I'm just going to be going to the office more. Yeah, if you spend more time in the office, typically, if you're doing something with work, you'll make more money. So it's just getting into the office at a decent time, even if that's like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, just getting to the office at a decent time and just being there and working. And usually, for the most part, if you go into the office, you'll make more money. So you just got to get to the office. I can work from home, and I know most agents can work from home, but typically if you are at an office where there's no distractions, you're going to make more money. So, and when I was working, I would forget to eat. So I would go all day. And then I would finally eat at like 8 p.m. because I would forget to eat. because I was so busy.
So just to clarify what I hear you saying, just getting in the environment is going to be able to help you get focused or refocused, I guess, and get
Yep.
things going again. Well, cool. I appreciate that answer. I had an office myself at one time and let it go with the concern that I was new, maybe didn't have a sustainable business. And so instead of renewing my lease, I let it go. Also simultaneously, we were purchasing a home and I was able to work from home. So I decided I'm going to slide over to the home office and cut my expenses and try to just survive whatever this 2022 may look like. Well, as we know now in 2023, 2022 was a lesser of a year for a lot of people. But for me, being young and young in the industry, it was actually a record year for me. So so maybe that's something for myself to consider going through the rest of this year, is like getting out of the home office. That's why I enjoy that Robert has these calls, because I get to see some of these faces that are out there really just doing work and helping a lot of people. And it inspires me to say, oh man, those guys are out there really crushing it still. And I know there's work to do, even though I'm sitting in my home office. So I appreciate that answer.
Yeah, no worries. So that's what I've noticed. And like, you know, obviously, like, you're going to make the most money in your appointments. You know, like, I know that I perform best with my showings because I do better with buyers than I do sellers. But, you know, the whole point of going to the office, I think, is to schedule appointments. So, and if you're at the office, your chances of scheduling those appointments are probably a little higher than if you have distractions. You know, like I struggle at home, you know, with the kids to just get stuff done. So, but if I go to the office, then I schedule more appointments, which ends up getting me more clients, and then I end up closing more. So I think it's just really getting into the office is a big deal.
I think sometimes, just kind of to close that thought, I think sometimes you want like the camaraderie and the motivation, like you mentioned your contest with Robert. You know, sometimes just surrounding yourself with people pushes you to set more appointments and make more phone calls, and you know, you kind of put a little bit more effort in than you would if you were at home.
Yeah, and I ended up losing that 1 month by like 10 or 15,000 in volume or something. But then, you know, I was so happy about it because I was like, okay, cool. Like, I can now go get dinner with Robert and his wife, and I'll take Megan, and, you know, we'll do a double date at like a nice restaurant, you know?
And
So
you'll learn,
Yeah.
because
We're
Robert
gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna.
yeah, just talk to the wife. We're pretty much open. So just let me know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think surrounding yourself with like other good agents and people in the industry is good too.
Yeah.
So, I like to like multiple lenders. Like I work with multiple lenders, and I try to send. It's harder now because I'm not closing as much as I was, but I used to send deals to like 4 or 5 different lenders at a time. And I would also talk about how important referrals were to my business. So I would try to get referrals from these lenders. And that's another thing that I was doing when I started, you know, when I started to get busy, was just talking about how important referrals are to your business. Because I would rather get a deal from a lender than get like $1,000 a month toward marketing. And I'd rather them send me deals. So I did focus a lot on that.
All right. Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I think, you know, some of us have talked about how to continue to make these better and better, so it's not just an interview every time. And I think today we've had a lot of open discussion. And Dustin, I really appreciate your transparency, and, you know, even kind of talking about the rut that you went through and how you pulled yourself out of it. I think that's huge. I'm excited. Next week, I actually have Nikki joining us, and I had kind of targeted Nikki for a while because she's a major player on a big team, and that's something that we haven't had yet. And she brings a unique perspective, like she mentioned already today, about just really wanting to sell. and focus on that and nothing else. So I think that'll be good. I'm really excited about that. But thank you, Nikki, for that.
I appreciate you having me on. Hopefully you guys join. Great job, Dustin.
If there's one thing they know, that I will persistently remind them about it, right? So
You are aggressive. I'm learning.
yeah. Okay, guys, I really appreciate it. Dustin, thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank
you. Look forward to continuing to get to know you better. And I appreciate everyone joining us today. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, guys.